it's not always the older brother or the older sibling who has the wisdom. The wisdom goes both ways. And I love that about this movie, is that Sherlock ends up being the one who's taught so much.
Hi, Henry. It's so nice to meet you. How are you today?
Nice to meet you too. I'm very well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Well, congratulations on this film. First of all, what was it like for you to rejoin this cast and to play Sherlock Holmes for a second time in this series?
Loads of fun. Absolutely love it. To have the old team back together. I mean, I missed Sam desperately, but to have the old team back together was wonderful. And it's just a great opportunity to delve deeper into these characters and to tell fun stories with an incredibly important message interwoven in there.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting story that we see told in this sequel. How do you think Sherlock changes as an individual and as a brother to Enola from the first movie to the second?
There's a role reversal that goes on between the two. In the first movie, we have Enola, who's been fairly cloistered, and albeit by her mother, who's an extraordinary and exceptional character and individual, but she's not world wise. And Sherlock comes in and he's the world wise guy, and he ends up being a catalyst for her growth. But in this second movie, it's the opposite, very much so. It's she comes in with wisdom and she teaches him and she becomes a catalyst for his growth. And I think that's a really important piece to represent, especially coming from a family of brothers. And it's not always the older brother or the older sibling who has the wisdom. The wisdom goes both ways. And I love that about this movie, is that Sherlock ends up being the one who's taught so much.
And those not familiar with the Enola Holmes films or the books might be always used to seeing Sherlock Holmes as the main guy. What do you think audiences can gain from seeing him portrayed in this manner, kind of taking a backseat to his younger sister instead?
It's difficult to say what audiences can gain. I think that's entirely relative to who the audience member is. I think what's wonderful is that Sherlock is a color to this universe rather than the center of this universe. The center of this universe is Enola, and that provides a different outlook and a different perspective, which is very much what these movies are about, of the Victorian world. And it shows us a different way. And I think for young women around the world, there's some really important messaging in there. And hopefully they have a great time learning about it too.
And finally, outside of Sherlock Holmes, of course, you've played another iconic character in the form of Superman. So now that you're officially returning to that role, what are your hopes for where you can take Superman's story in the DCEU?
There is so much in the way of conversations to be had. Obviously, I have a very close connection to the character, and there is something extraordinarily special about him, extraordinarily special about his capacity to give and to love. And I don't mean romantically, I mean his love for Earth and for the people who live here. And to make people feel powerful, to make people feel like Superman themselves. And I have plenty of desires for this, of course, which will be discussed more in time. But the most important thing, which I would be aiming for, is for the audience to leave the cinema and to feel like they can fly, to feel like they can protect, and to feel like they want to give to everyone else. And that would be my goal.
I know a lot of people are excited for that. Thank you so much for your time today, Henry. It was great chatting with you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Great chatting with you too.